I'd like to hear from you in your own words how you describe yourself, kind of the things that are important to you, you beyond any of your accomplishments.
How do I describe myself?
Mm.
I feel like if I were to describe myself, I would say that I'm goofy, um, hardworking, um, persistent, and fun.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I love it. I love it. And who are the really important people in your life?
My mom and dad, and right now my boyfriend,
Mm.
and I feel like Carly's been a huge person in my life for at least the past 6 years now.
Oh, right. So she was the assistant coach from the time you were a freshman, right?
Yeah, she started her first year as an assistant my freshman year.
And then what about things like hobbies and things outside of the gym?
Well, now since I'm like not a gymnast anymore and
Right.
I'm trying to fill my time, I've really gotten into like Pilates classes and spin classes. Um, and I like to do my own nails.
Oh, cool.
And I have two cats that,
I saw that you loved cats.
yes.
Are you still weren't you doing something with an organization?
Yeah, I was. I was trying to help them raise money because they're a rescue, but they don't adopt out. So all of the cats that they have stay within their house and they have
Oh,
like a whole like rescue for them. And so they pretty much like doubled in size in 1 year. And so it was a lot of
wow.
change. And so I was kind of just like helping them get the word out and putting up things for their auctions and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Is it a local organization there in Salt Lake?
Yeah, it's called Big Paws, and they're just like an exotic cat rescue. So the thing is, like, people will get these exotic cats as pets, but then they won't realize how big they are or how much work they are. And so they're either like neglected or abused in one way or another, left on the streets. And so when she gets them, she kind of is like, they've been through enough. I just want to give them like a good home. And so that's
Yeah.
why they stay in house once she rescues them.
Exotic cats like tigers or
Like like kind of like down the tree of them. Yeah, like I met one of them and she's actually kind of pretty intimidating.
I can
She's
imagine.
really, really big. And she has like the hairs on the top of their ears that you would kind of see like a Sahara cat have.
Oh,
And
wow.
like people will just like buy them and then not realize how like territorial or, how much work they are.
Are you still affiliated with the organization at all?
I still talk to her and stuff, but I don't like work with them anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have your own cats.
Yes, I do.
Nice. And I saw that you're doing Pilates is it the Maven
Yeah, it's called Maple
Strong?
Strong. Yeah,
Yeah.
I work with them and they're really cool, like women owned and like when the girls have like a bye week or something, all the girls will come in for like a class or something. But
Yeah, I used to work, I don't know if Kestrel Wellness is in that same facility, but I used to work with the doctor who ran Kestrel Wellness, and I think he was associated with Maven Strong in some way. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I think that's right where I used to work.
yeah, there's a company called I think they call it Maven Wellness now, but I don't
Okay.
think they like bought out or something. But
Yeah. Well, that's great. So you've really come into Pilates, and I can imagine, I mean, we'll get into kind of like health and stuff, but how is your body after years of gymnastics?
honestly, it's like pretty good. I was very, very lucky that I didn't have very many like injuries or anything really growing up. Like I never had like a surgery that I had to have for like an injury. Like I had a cyst on my wrist that I needed to get removed, but that's like the only surgery I've had, which is pretty rare, I would say, at this
Wow.
level or things like that. But yeah, I was pretty lucky with just like little naggy things, of course, like that you get, but
Right.
I never had like major injuries, which is very lucky.
Wow. That is lucky. So
Yeah.
let's just backtrack then. How old were you when you started, and how did you get into gymnastics?
I was just about 3 years old, and I got into it kind of because my cousin was doing gymnastics, and then we lived really close to them, and we spent a lot of time with them, and he would be teaching me gymnastics in the backyard. So his mom and dad, my aunt and uncle were kind of like, we should probably like get her started. And so they gave me like a 1 month free trial for Christmas in December of, I would say that's 2004. And then I started in around January of 2005, right before I turned 3.
And
Yeah.
where did you grow up? Was it in around Salciano?
Yes. Yeah. I grew up in Las Vegas at,
And
and
did you
Salciano.
start at Salciano?
Yeah. I
Oh,
was pretty much like born and raised at that gym with the same coaches, which is kind
that's
of
really
crazy.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you know, did your coaches know from kind of day one that you had something special? Did you love it?
I mean, I didn't know. I was just having fun, like flipping around and stuff.
Right.
I'm not exactly like sure when my like coaches like picked me out of the rep classes and was like, let's like get her started on team, even though there used to be like an age limit. You had to be like
Hmm.
6 years old to compete.
Right.
So I was like 5.5 or something when I was like starting to do all like the team stuff, and I was pretty much like ready to compete level 4 because that was the lowest level also.
Okay.
So I started competing when I was eligible at 6, but
6 years old. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
It used
And
to be 9. You had to be 9 years old to compete. And so if you like we would do exhibition, but you
yeah,
couldn't compete until you were 9. So 6 years old. Wow, that's changed a bit.
yeah. I think it's even different now because obviously they have like level 2 and all the Excel classes
Oh,
and stuff.
right.
But yeah,
Okay. So you started competing level 4 when you were 6 years old.
yeah,
Did you love it? Was it something that you just like wanted to do all the time?
yeah. I did. I loved it so much. I just
Yeah.
remember like always being so happy to be in the gym, and so
Oh.
it was the best.
And you have siblings, correct?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 4. I have an older brother and 2 older sisters.
Did they do gymnastics?
No. My
No.
brother did for a little bit, but like just for fun.
Your brother did, is that what you said?
Yeah, just for a little bit because at my
Mm.
gym we had a men's program as well for a while.
How did your family balance it? You being so dedicated to gymnastics with 3 siblings.
Well, 2 of my older siblings, like my 2 oldest sisters, are like quite a bit older, so they were kind of
Mm.
already like getting out of the house by the time that I was really getting involved into it. But I mean, I don't really remember ever like worrying about things, or really they kind of just, did what parents do, and they did their best to provide for both my brother and I, and
Yeah.
put us in the sports that we want to be in, even though I was just doing gymnastics. My brother was bouncing around between baseball and football and volleyball and,
Um,
CrossFit and stuff like that throughout his whole like growing up. But
mhm.
I mean, they just were great in supporting me and getting me the things that I needed to. And
What is
yeah.
the age gap then between you and your siblings?
So my brother and I are 3 years apart, and then
Mhm.
it's 12 years between my sister and I, and then
Oh.
15 between the oldest and me.
Oh my goodness. That's a
Yeah.
really big age gap.
Yeah.
Are you close to them now? Do you guys stay in touch?
Yeah, when we were in Seattle, actually, that's where one of my sisters lives, and I went and hung out with her for a while on that Friday before we competed on Saturday. And then the other one lives in Missouri, and so I don't get to see her
Oh.
as often, but we do go visit her like once a year or something.
So at what age did you start to get really serious about gym?
I probably started getting really serious about gymnastics when I was like 8 or
Mhm.
so. That's when I started homeschooling too, actually. Uh,
Oh, I didn't
I
know that you
started
homeschooled.
homeschooling so I could train more. And at that point, I was just like, yay, more flips, more
Right.
gymnastics time, but I
Yeah,
really didn't know like what was going on.
right.
So like looking back, maybe would I have like everything's hindsight 2020, but like would I have
Mm.
probably rather started homeschooling at an age where I was more understanding of what was happening? Maybe, but I was also just like so excited to flip, you know?
Right.
Oh.
So were you doing two-a-days at that age, at 8?
We didn't do two-a-days really. We just did one
Ever. Okay.
really long day. So, especially like I think I was like third grade to like seventh grade or so,
Hmm.
I was in a full like homeschool program online.
Oh, wow.
And then I tried going back to regular school because I really wanted like the regular school, socialization and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I would do like my core classes in person and then do like all of my other classes online. So it was like going to be like half
Okay.
and half kind of, but it didn't really work. So then I ended up going to a different program, which actually was really nice. It was pretty much the same homeschooling, but once a week, for 4 hours, you would go into like the campus and see all
Hmm.
your teachers and do some of your homework there. And if you had questions or needed help, like it was like a nice mix. So my Wednesdays from like seventh grade to like graduated were just a little bit of a different time frame. I would train, I think, like 1 to 6 instead of 9 to 5.
9 to 5? You were just like at the gym all day. It was literally
Yeah.
your full-time job. Oh
Yeah. And
my
we
God.
got like a
Nine to
a 30-minute lunch break like you would if you worked an 8-hour day.
And you guys didn't even have compulsories, right? You were doing optionals. You only had one routine to train, not only, but like you were doing one event, one routine per event.
Yeah,
What
kind of.
did
Except
you
for like when I was also like leading up to testing elite, you have to like learn the elite compulsory, all of that
Okay.
stuff. So yes, for a certain time I was training too, but then once I passed all of that stuff, I just was doing one routine, learning upgrades, conditioning, all of this stuff.
Yeah. Wow. And so was it the Odyssey Charter School that you ended up going to in seventh grade? Was that what you,
Yeah,
the rest of? Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
Odyssey Charter School was my like program for the rest of my time.
When
Yeah.
did you first qualify, Lee? I remember watching you at the junior national championships. I think it was one of the years that you won.
Oh
What
yeah.
year?
So I was 11, so 2013 was like my first year junior.
Okay.
It's actually kind of a funny story. Like I went in for like I'd passed my compulsories and I went in for like my optionals testing, but I was just gonna do hopes. And
Can you
it was,
distinguish between the two, the hopes versus, because it's very different than how it was like, 20, 30 years ago.
yeah. At least from when I was doing it, Hopes was just like a little bit lower level elite. And they
Okay.
had different like age groups. It was just like 10, 11, and then 12 and 13s. So it's
Okay.
just like a leeway into elite if you weren't quite ready,
Mm.
for all the skills and stuff. But I went in for like my optionals testing and I was going to do Hopes. And Mihai Breshchin and Valeria Lukin like went up to my coaches and they're like, "What are you guys doing here? Why aren't you like coming tomorrow for the elite one?" And they were like, "Oh, we were gonna test hopes," and they're like, "Come back tomorrow."
Oh,
So
that's
I was
cool.
like ready, and then we like ended up coming back the next day to test elite, even though I was really only trying to do like hopes at the time. But I ended up qualifying and, I was like the bottom of the barrel, I didn't qualify to like nationals or like championships or anything like that. I just made like classics and stuff.
What year was that then? Was that 2013?
2013, yeah. And then 2014 was the first time I made championships. 2015 and 2016. Wait, I'm
Is
trying to think. 2013, 2014. 2015 and 2016, yeah, were the first years I won, the 2 years I won.
okay.
No, no, sorry, wrong. 2016 and 2017. I was like, dang, that was quick. I came up fast. No, it was not that quick.
So were you junior elite your entire elite career, or did you go senior?
Pretty much. I did one senior league competition. I did American
Mm.
Cup.
And you
Yeah.
placed third, right?
Yeah. I
Like
mean, there's only like
did
eight
very well.
competitors, but I got
Well,
third.
still, but it was American Cup. Like you're invited to American Cup, and so at that point you had won two P&G national championships, right, in the junior level,
Yeah.
and you had won three other events, I think. So you had like won five titles as a junior at championships. So talk me through kind of the thought process of moving beyond elite and going back to 10.
Yeah, like you just said, I had like a great junior career and I kind of just like peaked really, really early, like 14 and 15.
Hmm.
And even before I like got invited to go to American Cup, I was like, I'm not really sure if like I want to be doing this elite stuff anymore. But then I got selected, so I was like, I might as well just like, finish it out and go to that. And I did well, like you said. I had a fall and I hit my heels on my Jaeger, piked Jaeger on the bars. So it was like I
Hmm.
probably would have done even better if I didn't make those mistakes. And after that, I had this like cyst on my wrist kind of start to bother me. And so I got it drained. And then like 2 months later, it came back.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, I'll just get it drained again. And then like 2 days later, it filled back
Mhm.
up. And so it was really painful, like right in my joint area.
Like a ganglion cyst kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, well, we can like go in and remove it. It should be pretty easy. Recovery time will be minimal, like 4 or 6 weeks or something like that. And I was like, okay. So I did that. And when they like went in for the removal, it was like wrapped around one of my tendons.
Oh no.
So they were actually like, it was a good thing we went and removed it, or else it might have strangled that tendon and like killed it, kind of. And then I just had never really had an injury and didn't know kind of the process of recovery and staying fit and staying in shape while not being able to like do gymnastics or do all the things.
Mhm.
And so I really just kind of with already feeling like I didn't want to be doing elite gymnastics anymore, and then the recovery process and like everything just kind of like building on top of itself,
Mhm.
I pretty much just was kind of like, I'm not really happy. I did continue to try for elite until like the end of that year, 2018. So I had my surgery in May and then was going to try and compete that summer in elite competitions, and that didn't work out. And then I went to my last national team camp in November of 2018. And then in December of 2018, I pretty much decided that I didn't want to be doing elite anymore. Mentally, I was not in like a good spot. Like physically, probably could be doing all my skills, but super like unhappy and just like not who I knew myself like to be anymore.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
just been the whole buildup of 2018 kind of on top of it.
So
So
were you 17 at that time? 16, 17?
I was 16. Yeah, not quite
Mm.
17 yet, but almost.
That's very wise. So did you have any kind of a support network that you were able to talk this through, to be able to know something's not right mentally, I don't really want to be doing this. Who was your support network at that time to help you make the decision?
Honestly, I didn't really have like a professional, and I didn't talk much about it with like my primary coaches, Tammy and Seren, or my mom and dad. I had like a secondary coach who worked really closely with me, and he was on the like younger side, like mid to upper 20s. And his name is Trevor, and he still actually works at our gym now. He just came back. He lived in California for a bit, but
Mhm.
I really just kind of like leaned into him and had a lot of conversations with him about it. And I think he could kind of like tell that I just like wasn't really myself anymore. And um, so like with that, like just like conversating with him and thinking about it myself and everything like that, I kind of came to the conclusion that I really didn't want to be doing elite gymnastics anymore.
Was college in the conversation at that time?
I mean, yes, I had already like verbally committed to Utah, but I
Oh,
wasn't supposed to go until 2020.
okay.
So, actually, after I kind of made that decision, we were up here just like for a meet and like an unofficial visit or something, kind of. And it was like January of 2019. I'm doing like my first ever season of level 10 because I went straight from level 9 to elite. Tom, was kind of like, we have a position open if you can come this summer. And I was like, what do I need to do? Like school wise, I had already met all of the requirements to be admitted into Utah. I had already done like my ACT and everything like that.
Mhm.
But Nevada wise, I couldn't graduate yet because I needed a whole year of like I needed my senior year of English and a senior year of math. So I after like that, I went back home, met with like my guidance counselor, and I ended up taking 10 classes that semester so I could graduate. I had
And glasses.
three math classes, three English classes, like my government, my science, and all like the other regular stuff. So
Wow.
yeah, but I was pretty much just like, what can I do to go?
So it was basically your junior year. Was it like the second semester of your junior year and you graduated a year early and then were
Yeah,
able to come to Utah?
yeah,
Okay. Was
with like
2020 the Olympics that you were aiming for?
yeah,
You would have graduated, gone to the Olympics, and then you were going to come to Utah the next year.
yeah,
Wow, that is intense. So that you graduated a year early.
yeah.
When were you recruited by Utah?
Um, I mean, the recruiting rules were so different back then. They started recruiting me when I was like 12, coming to the gym.
Yeah.
Like they saw me at all like the elite meets and stuff like that. And then I verbally committed the summer between my eighth grade and ninth grade year. So that would have been, I don't know, 2014, 15 maybe. Yeah, 2015 probably.
Oh, that's
So
what
I was
Ella and I were
13.
talking about that. I think she committed around the same time. But back in the day, it was like I don't think Greg could reach out to us until we were juniors in high school. Like it was illegal to even touch base with us. And I think it's kind of back
Yeah.
that, right? Is it junior year?
Mhm.
Okay.
Which is like way better. Like what
Yeah.
14-year-old knows exactly what college they want to go to?
Right. And the change that can happen in 4 years,
Yeah.
it's such a risk for the coach and the athlete. And how did you decide on Utah?
Um, I mean, I just like loved the program. I loved watching them on TV. I hadn't really been to many like meets or anything. I had this silly mindset of like, oh, I don't really want to do college gymnastics. I'll watch them on TV, but like I just want to go to the Olympics and make money.
Oh, interesting.
And then obviously like I got a little older and realized that's not like super realistic.
Mhm.
Um, But I mean, obviously, we just have like a legendary program, a lot of history. And at that time, I really wanted to do physical therapy, and we have a great physical therapy program here.
Yep.
And I just felt like I had a lot of support like from the coaches since they started recruiting me from so young. They knew me pretty well, and
Hmm.
they always supported me through my decisions, even when I decided to drop back to level 10. And they were in the gym quite often to see me and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Tom was the one who recruited you from the get-go.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
12, 13 years old, having to decide on what college you're going to. I don't even think I thought about college until like after the Olympics and it was like, okay, I guess it's something that I'll think about. But I was a junior in high school. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like, just like the transition moving out of home and then coming into Utah? And can you remember like your first time in the Huntsman Center?
Yeah. Honestly, I was only like 17 years old, so I was pretty young, and I grew up at the same gym with the same coaches. And so I think, and coming from homeschool, I mean, I just had everything set against me. I had a hard time kind of like with the school mostly, just like going. to going to class, taking exams in person and like not learning online and
Right.
um kind of that was really hard the first I mean, I did summer school and then the first like semester was pretty hard. But I mean, I made it work. We have a lot of resources here, so that was really helpful.
Hmm.
I worked with tutors and our sports psych program and everything like that. And
Hmm.
then, like I mentioned with the coaching, it was just like weird because I never really had coaches that like didn't know me or how I work or anything like
Right.
that. And so they kind of had to learn me. I kind of had to learn them
Hmm.
probably just through the summer. And then I really kind of like felt like I like started to, understand how this whole college coaching thing was working and learning my coaches at that time.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of also like came into Utah just like a little burnt out, like
Hmm.
straight out of the 2018 year. And I did well in JO, but it just like wasn't the same. I wasn't the same as an athlete or as a person really either.
Hmm.
Um, so I had a lot of changes and I grew a lot throughout my career, which is great. You always want to see your athletes grow, but a multitude of ways. So
What were the biggest challenges in adjusting to new coaches?
I think kind of just like in the summer, it was weird because, everything's voluntary. You're kind of just doing what you want and flipping around and stuff like that. And that
But
was
this
kind of
was
like
the summer
weird.
before you started,
Yeah, like the
summer
summer of
before your freshman.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so like that was just kind of like weird. I was like so unsure of what I should be doing. And I don't think I maybe did enough. And then like that fall, like gearing up for season, so just like kind of learning the rhythm of what the year looks like and how the fall is just like you grind and you get in shape and you get in routine shape and competition shape and like everything like that. And then competition season comes around and you're not grinding so much in the gym, more so on the competition floor and everything like that. So,
There's a lot of adjustment. Who did you live with? Who was your roommate?
all four of us freshmen lived together, me, Abby Paulson,
Oh,
Aiden Rucker, and Jillian Hoffman. Yeah.
in the dorms?
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite memories as
Some of
a
my favorite memories.
hmm
I think one of like my all-time favorites was my freshman year at UCLA. We were definitely like supposed to lose. Um, because they had like Kyla Ross, Madison Koshin, like all of them on their team. And we were at UCLA and we were a pretty young team because they had a lot of girls graduate. Like if I remember correctly, we were trying to replace like 17 routines or something. Because Michaela Skinner also like deferred to try for the Olympics and everything like that. So we had lost so many routines,
Yeah.
but we ended up winning and it was like so amazing. I remember like feeling like so crazy happy. And that was just like one of the best feelings ever.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and then I think kind of like moving through my years, making it to like day two of nationals my sophomore year. Because we weren't competing super well on the first day and we were in third and you have to be in the top two to make it to day two. And we
Mhm.
were in third going into the last rotation. And I mean, we all just did really, really good bar routines. And then like some other team had messed up on a different event. And it came down to like just we did well and they didn't on the last event. And we jumped into that spot. And I was also like, just, I mean, kind of crazy, but like so fun. Like I think that was the first time I had ever really like shed so many happy tears. I was just
Oh,
standing there, like so
okay.
fun. Like have a team too. I think I never really like doing elite. It's just you and when you go compete for Team USA, of course it's like a team, but it's never the same team the whole year or all the time. Like it's
Right.
changing assignment to assignment. So just like having like my sisterhood and like all the girls supporting and loving and the older girls at that point, just like kind of leading me along and stuff like that. And it was just
Mhm.
super amazing.
It's
But
so special. I think some of my favorite memories were just like being in the gym together. And when you're getting really challenged, like the coach gives you a really hard assignment and you just rise to the occasion and that feeling of accomplishment as a team. Yeah, it's something very special.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
like it's it's kind of crazy because I mean, we never, while I was on the team, never won like a team championship,
right.
but I just feel like team championship would just like way surpass any of like the individual championships I like ever
Really.
won or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you won a lot.
Not too many, but won a few, yeah.
Well, every event except vault, right? Like, so you won floor, you won bars. Was that in the same national
Yeah,
floor and bars? And then you won beam and all around in the same one.
yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like going into NCAAs? Because I think about like when I went into my freshman year, there was never a thought about winning. There was never a thought about an outcome. And that's for me when I performed the best. What was your mindset going into these competitions?
Honestly, like I felt so much more stress going into like regionals just because like
Oh,
it's so stressful and like with our program making it to every single match,
right.
like you have this feeling of like I don't want to be on that team.
Right.
Like last year when we had that really, really scary day two at regionals and we made it through, I was just like, I think I just like lost years off of my life because that was so stressful. But
Yeah.
like going into nationals, yeah, you just like have this like sense of like freedom of competing freely. And I agree, like the years that I did really well, because I kind of like won my championships like in twos, like on in the same
Right.
year and stuff. I
Yeah.
just kind of had a sense of ease and kind of just like I'm here to enjoy it, kind of, because I
Mm.
won my first two my sophomore year because my freshman year we didn't have a postseason because of COVID. And so I was like, I was frazzled. I had never really done all this stuff before, but like it was just like enjoyable to be there and to have all that postseason. And then my like true senior year when I won beam and all around. I mean, they came together at the same time pretty much because we ended on beam and
Right.
I had been kind of like searching for that title for a few years. And Carly really worked close with me on that year to kind of just compete like I practice versus like competing like I have to win
Hmm.
or I have to be perfect and stuff like that. And I had never even like thought about winning the all around. Like I don't do a Yurchenko 1.5, so I don't start from a 40. I start from a 39.95
Right.
and or 30, yeah, whatever it is. And so I'm just
Yeah.
that was never like a thought in my head. I was really just like focused on what I was doing and then it all like came together. And
Yeah.
I ended up doing like a perfect beam routine, which also gave me the all around like at the same time.
Yep. I remember watching that.
Yeah. Well,
That
because
was
like
so cool.
I hadn't even like realized I had won the all around until like I had a headset on for interviews before the awards. And on TV interviews, it might not be like on your face, but you can hear like the people on the TV talking, and they're like, and when we come back from this next commercial, we'll be back with like your new NCAA all-around champion. And I was like,
That's me.
what? That was me. Yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, do
Oh,
this interview. But then it was like so cool to like hear that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what? I don't ever remember like thinking like I'm here to win. I was just like, I'm here to do my gymnastics, and my gymnastics is like really good.
what were the tools that you and Carly worked on to kind of just, enjoy the moment and let go of outcome?
I always had this thing of like, I practice so good, so I'm gonna compete so good. And it didn't always work out for me. So I
Mm.
had to kind of like focus more on my process of my routine, like keywords and like finding places to breathe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my beam song actually that year was I don't remember exactly right now, but it said something like, why that if she's so perfect can't like isn't it working? And it was
Mhm.
just like kind of a fun reminder, like during my routines, specifically in the Huntsman, that like
Yeah.
perfection doesn't always mean that it's gonna like work. So just
Oh,
like
that's cool.
process is what makes the like perfection happen, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we
Yeah.
can talk about all the tens now because I know it was very much in your face. And I think back to when I was competing, it wasn't like that. You know, I didn't know that I had broken records until I was like done at Utah. And then when they were talking about you breaking my record, I didn't know that I had the beam record. So it was like,
Oh, true.
yeah, I didn't, well, because we didn't, like, it just wasn't in our face. We
Yeah,
didn't
that's
have social media. We didn't have a ton of media coverage. Like, we weren't on TV a lot. And um, so when they started talking about that, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I didn't know that I had that record. And I'm thinking, what must it be like for you? You know, because every time I went up on beam, I was not thinking about a 10. But for you, it was like everywhere. Is Miley going to do it? Is it, you know? So how did you, was it something that like fueled the fire? Was it something that you had to block out? I mean, how did you manage all of that pressure?
I never really like thought about that record truly until like maybe the end of my true senior year going into like my fifth year. Just
Hmm.
because like I wasn't even like close. I was just competing, and nobody was really talking about it. I was just like getting a 10 here or there. You can see definitely how it would have been like maybe a little bit easier to compete if people weren't always like, oh, you're going for this record or you're doing this or how many more
Yeah.
tens until that. And in the moment, I never really like thought about it as pressure, maybe just because like it was so normalized to have things like in our face about like what's coming up. But I
Hmm.
do remember like at some point, maybe my freshman or sophomore year, I think maybe after I got my first 10, I was like, who has like the most tens in our history? And like, how cool would it be like if I could do that? And I never like really thought like it would happen. I was just like, that'd be something like to work for and like that would be really cool. But it's kind of crazy to hear that you didn't even know you had those records.
I knew that I had the total 10 record after I was done, but I didn't know that it was like which events,
Yeah.
until, well, yeah, until just recently. It just was kind of the norm for you then to know that these things were going to be in your face. But how did you handle it?
Sometimes good, sometimes not. I mean, we're all human, and there were times where I was super like relaxed, stress-free, and other times where it was really on like the top of my head. But like when I was like relaxed and stress-free, it was because I was focusing more just like on my process of the routine, and I had like set myself up throughout the day or throughout the week, or just like with my training, if you train well, you feel more relaxed when you go to compete. You
Hmm.
trust in yourself a little bit more. And I was close to the end of the lineup my freshman year, but then it wasn't working, so he swapped me to the middle.
Hmm.
Um, but then in my sophomore year, I was in the middle, and then I got swapped to the back. And
Hmm.
I always thought it was like I can't contribute like all of my tens just to me because like if the first five girls went up and hit their routines really solidly and it's like we don't even need my score, I felt like really free competing. I was just like, oh, I can just like go kind of do whatever I want, like and just like do it. And so like it really was like so nice to have such great girls going in front of me.
Hmm.
That way I could just kind of breathe and do my gymnastics. It's stressful when you have one mistake in front of you and now you're the last person. It really does come down to you,
Right.
and that's just like a lot of anxiety and pressure and stuff. And I've had that happen a couple times where I do end up being in that position. I compete really well, but it's almost just kind of like you get in this mindset of like, there's no other choice. Like, I'm just going to be great because I know I can be,
I love that.
like
Yeah.
no other choice other than to like choose greatness in that moment because like you are. And it
Yeah.
like takes a little bit of this like confidence, and you have to be like confident in yourself in that moment, you know?
So was there kind of an intentional practice that you would do, or was there like pre-routine ritual? What was it that you did to allow you to kind of like get in that mindset, enjoy and relax?
Yeah. It's kind of like funny because it's like weird, but watching like the first four, I would watch the first full four routines in front of me if I was six. And I had like one of their dance moves that I would also kind of do with them in their routine just to kind of
Oh,
keep me out of my head. So
yeah.
I would do like part of their dance with them during the routine. Just that way I'm not standing there like I'm coming up, I'm coming up, I'm, you know.
Right.
And then if I was six, the fifth girl, I would watch like the first half of her routine, and then I would go do like my mental set. So if
Mhm.
we're in the Huntsman, you know how it's set up, like this is the top of the Huntsman, vault, beam, like floor, beam, bars down here. I would walk over like to the vault runway and do like my whole walking mental set over there before I went. And I would find a place in every arena kind of to do that, just away from the beam space and
Mhm.
just like do my own walking set with my breathing, with my mental cues and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I was very particular about then going to grab my chalk block, mark the beam, and then
Yeah.
a few things like physically, and then talk to Carly and then kind of just go from there.
What did
So
Carly tell you?
it was never the same thing. I think
Mm.
she kind of took how my warm up went, took how the first five people went, and then kind of like meshed what she felt like I needed together. One common theme is I feel like she always told me, like, you're amazing, like, you got this, or like, you're beautiful, you can do it, or, you know,
Yeah.
something along those lines of like confidence, reassurance, and then along with maybe like some minor cues or something like that. But
She seems very intentional and just wise, being able to tend to each athlete in the way that they need in each moment, really, each changing
yeah,
moment.
yeah, definitely she
Right.
is.
It makes me think I have had a very similar pre-routine ritual on beam, but I would go over by the bars and I would
Yeah,
like go through my routine in my body and then I would like get myself limp because I was always so nervous. So I would
yeah.
relax and just like let my body go limp. And then I had those keywords before and then it was like I don't remember a lot of my performances. Do you remember a lot of being up on? I mean, I know it's a little bit more fresh in your mind, but
If they're like super important or they were really important, I feel like I remember them, but I mean, I feel like I can only remember like three or four of my tens, and
mm,
so
yeah.
no, I wouldn't say I remember like a bunch of them, but
Because you're like in a different mindset when you're actually doing it.
yeah, you kind of like black out and you just go.
I feel like the performances where maybe I was more in my head, I didn't do as well. So the ones that I did remember, probably
Yeah.
not a good, probably not a good thing. So was it an easy decision then to take your fifth year?
Honestly, not really. I started thinking about it like in October of my true senior year, just because like I felt like I needed to kind of give them a decision, that way they could plan for it and everything like that.
Mm,
I had a lot like that went into it. I was trying to figure out schooling, of course, like what am I going to do school wise? And then,
mm,
like, do I want to do another year? Am I content with what I've done? And then what it really came down to is just like I didn't have a postseason my freshman year. So it's like those are really like the fun, special moments. And so even though I had 5 years, I only had like four postseasons.
that's
So
true.
I think that's really what it like came down to. Just like support from like people around me, really just kind of like because earlier in my career, I wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm not doing it. Like I don't want to do that. And then kind of like being around different people, I was like, this is like a good thing. Like it can have a lot of good that comes for it. And like I don't ever get to do this again. So it's like
Right.
might as well take the opportunity.
And you were healthy enough to do it.
Yeah.
Had you graduated from college after 4 years? You already had
Yeah, so
a degree.
I finished my major and stuff in 4 years, and then I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do with my last year of school.
What did you major in?
I majored in kinesiology and minored in nutrition.
You said you were going to do PT, but is that not the path anymore?
Yeah, no, I kind of
Um,
realized that you have to take a lot of really hard classes, and I was like, oh, no, I want to do that. And, and then I was like, I really want to like stay within gymnastics and coach.
My major changed. I did like exercise science and psych. I wanted to be a sports psychologist. And then when I decided to do my fifth year, I did like a pre-PT major and I was going to go to PT school. And then I like ended up changing and now I'm a PA. So life works out as it should.
Yes.
So how have things been like being on the other side? What was it like your first meet in the Huntsman where you weren't competing and you were a coach?
I mean, things have been like really good overall. I think the weirdest time was probably like the summer, just because like I was so fresh. I would be like in the gym and everything is like voluntary, so you can't like give the girls assignments. And so I'm just like kind of standing there, watching, giving corrections or helping them if they need help. And I always just felt like somebody was gonna be like, Miley, why are you like standing around? Like, can you get to work or something? So like that was like a really weird time frame. Um,
Hmm.
and then I feel like I settled in, kind of found my groove in the middle of like the fall semester. And honestly, like Red Rock's preview was like really weird and hard. Like again, it was like you settle into a role, but then now there's this like new role of like meet day coaching and like where do I fit in on this day, and like finding all those things. And I think it's just like weird watching like the intro video, and I'm not like in the tunnel with the girls. I'm kind of just like standing there and
Oh gosh,
so like that was just like really weird. But like once we started competing, I didn't feel like it was like that weird,
that's
um,
good.
which was like odd. At the beginning of the summer, I'm kind of backtracking, but
Mm.
at the beginning of the summer, my boyfriend and I, we were kind of talking because he was still living in Philadelphia, and I went out to visit him. And I hadn't like been in the gym yet as a coach. And I was like, I don't miss gymnastics at all. Like this is amazing. I'm enjoying it so much. Like didn't have school, didn't have like any responsibilities. And then I came back here for like a week, coached in the gym a little bit, and then went back to Philadelphia to visit him. And I was like, that was so hard. Like, I miss it. And he was like, I was getting a little bit worried about you because you were just so content and like so chill about it. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, I miss it.
I'm not content.
Yeah. Honestly,
Yeah.
I just like miss flipping, like the feeling of flipping. There's just like nothing, like it.
Yep.
So that's what I miss the most, really.
So it was like when you were done, you felt like you were very much done, and then the reality set in, and yeah, missing. And do
Yeah.
you feel like being a coach, like on the same team, has it eased the transition? Has it made it harder? Has it been a little bit of both?
I feel like it's maybe eased it because I am like so close with our staff and
Yeah.
like some of the girls and stuff. I thought it was going to be like really weird coaching the older girls who like I've been on the team with for 2 or 3 or whatever, how many years. But like honestly, it was like less weird coaching the older girls than it was like the freshmen or the
Oh.
sophomores, just because like I don't know them as well. And I
Hmm.
felt like there was like this already like built-in level of respect with the older girls. They knew I wasn't gonna just like say something to say something. If I was saying it is because I meant it, or like intentional like with my words and stuff like that, which was like kind of weird. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting kind of to just like see the freshman and be like, this is me. And but I was just kind of like, I don't want them to like not like me. I don't want them to think I'm, you know, this or that, where the older girls already like knew who I was and like
Hmm.
had that like level of trust already kind of like built.
So do you enjoy coaching?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do enjoy it. It's been really nice to like still be connected like with the program and with gymnastics in general, and feel like since we already have a full staff and I'm kind of just like an extra and I'm straight out of like my career, I'm like bringing like a unique perspective for the girls, hopefully, and kind of just like helping them realize specifically on like the days that are really hard that like it's not the end of the world and like tomorrow will come and you'll have another day in the gym or things like that. I feel like we just get like so hard on ourselves and we're just like, this is the worst. We're so lucky to like be doing what we're doing and like it's okay to not be like so perfect every single turn or every single day and like ebbs and flows. You have to go down to come back up.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I'm sure that's such a gift to the team. Yeah, because it's so fresh in your experience. You
Yeah.
have a different perspective than the other coaching staff. So,
Kind of like giving them the advice that I wish I had, you know.
right.
Like I was so hard on
Yeah,
myself. I wish I would have like enjoyed the process a little bit more and stuff like that. So,
really.
yeah. Well, especially like my freshman, sophomore, junior year, then you get to senior year and you're like, okay, yeah. And then like really like my true or sorry, my super senior year, I was like, this is like a bonus everything. So I'm really just like enjoying it and trying to, you know, so
Just take it all in.
yeah.
When did you guys make the decision for you to come in as a volunteer assistant coach?
I initially, Carly had mentioned that it could be an option like December going like of my super senior year.
Oh,
So like,
wow.
right before season started. And we hadn't had like a student coach in a while, so they had to kind of go through the process of like what do we need to get approved and like how do we need to move forward and make sure with everything. So I really didn't know that it was going to be like an option that far in advance.
Wow.
But it all worked out.
Yeah. And how has the relationship changed then? Because it was like a very quick transition from like you as the athlete to now you as a coach with her alongside her.
Yeah, I mean, she's been like really great in like teaching me the ways and like if there was like a day where in the fall she was out recruiting, then I was like the main beam coach, which was kind of crazy. But
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and just like a lot of like the background stuff that you don't even realize like happens, like getting things together, things for like mailers and like all that kind of jazz. But like
Mailers. What do you mean? Like sending out to people?
yeah, like out to like recruits and stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
it's been like really cool to like see the other side and kind of feel like I've like learned more about Carly from like a different perspective and a different side because, like as an athlete and coach, that's kind of like your relationship. And,
Hmm.
they're getting to know you, of course, but you don't like get to know very much about them sometimes. So I feel like it's been nice to like see that.
Yeah, that's very true. She seems like a phenomenal woman. I was
Yeah.
telling Ella when I was talking to her, I was like, I listened to Carly's interview on the Perform Happy podcast. I don't know if you listened to that podcast interview, but I had texted Carly and I was like, oh, I wanted you as a coach. I loved Greg and Megan, but yeah, I think she would have been a phenomenal addition at that point too.
Yeah. She is amazing.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, NIL, and we've talked a little bit about social media and how you just kind of grew up with it. So you had to adapt and figure out ways to either harness the energy or block it out. But what are your thoughts on NIL, like the pros of it and the cons of it?
I think the way that it like started, like we were just going to be able to like work with companies and like stuff like that. I think that was like great. It's definitely like changing the culture of collegiate athletics, maybe not too much of gymnastics, but definitely influencing it in a little ways. But like if you look at a basketball or a football program, it's definitely influencing, things like that and recruiting and stuff. But it is amazing and great for us in some ways. I do think it was like kind of due.
Hmm.
The university does make so much money off of us and our performances and our sports and stuff. So I think getting a little bit of that was definitely necessary. For like gymnastics in specific, I think, like I said, I don't know if it's changing too much of like recruiting and stuff like that. But some of the positives, is we are able to profit off of our name, image, and likeness and who we are and us as
Mhm.
people and as athletes. Of course, there's still no more like pay for play, which I think is great because that's pro sports. You can't get paid to play. That's professional
So
athletics.
maybe you can distinguish the difference.
Yes. So pay for play is like, oh, you won this, here's this amount of money. Or, oh, you competed well, here's this amount of money. Where name, image, and likeness is more of like an exchange of like appearances, goods, things of that nature, or like doing an interview or going out to a community and doing something like that. It has to be
Mhm.
like working for you have to work in some capacity for the money that you make. You can't just be who you are and compete your sport for money.
Okay, yeah. I guess I
So,
didn't really know that distinction. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So I think it's been great in that sense. I mean, some of the negatives
Yeah,
kind of just like if you have one outlier on your team, a person who makes really good money and then the rest of the team doesn't, I feel like it could maybe cause a divide. But we're very lucky at our program in particular, where we have like a whole team-wide collective and stuff like that.
right.
And, having Who Rocks the House, it's really been like amazing for our whole team, not just one athlete or.
The Who Rocks the House collective kind of divvies up the money evenly across the team, correct? If
Yeah.
I'm understanding it. Okay. Yeah, I've wondered about that, on certain teams where it's not even the top athlete, but they're making potentially millions of dollars. Like, what is that doing to the team dynamic? And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, like I said, I can only assume that it would like
Yeah.
cause some sort of divide and stuff like that. But, it also does kind of like come down to like your initiative with the NIL and stuff
Mm.
because I wouldn't say like I was like the most involved with NIL just because I felt like at one point I did start kind of like digging into it and it just felt like there was too much on my plate. I also still had gymnastics and still had school. And then I didn't like work with a brand manager or anything like that because I just was like too much also to have like a lot of like brand partnerships. And I also just feel like it can, if you're like having to post on your social media for a bunch of different brands, that maybe you don't like particularly align with, like is your content like organic and is that like who you're trying to like put yourself out to be and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was really picky like with companies that I worked with just because like I wanted to make sure that I aligned with their values and their goals and I was going to be able to create content that made sense with who
Hmm.
I am.
Yes, I love hearing that. Right. Because I wonder how many of these young athletes who aren't as thoughtful as you are kind of getting pulled into these things. And I would imagine it's adding just more pressure. Like you
Yeah.
said, like more things on their plate. It's already hard enough to be a college athlete. And yeah, I wonder about the level of pressure and you're very mature and like able to make these decisions for yourself. But have you known any athletes who maybe aren't able to do that and they've been sucked into the added pressure of NIL and social media and maybe has it impacted their performance?
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. I can only
Not to
imagine
name
like
names, but
yeah, I can only imagine like particularly about like social media and the pressures and like I had to go like off of some of the platforms just because like I was like this is not good for me. Like why am I reading all these like terrible things and like it's just like making me feel so bad and like they don't even know me.
right. It drives me crazy. Like the people who are so judgmental and have never, ever done anything remotely close to, what you've done, what college athletes have done, and they're making these external judgments. And I think social media is this like safe platform to attack people. because
Yeah.
you don't see them face to face. It's like you don't know how your words are impacting this person who has literally dedicated their life to this, striving for perfection.
And it's just like this whole thing of like, you don't know everything that's going on in my life. You literally just see me salute a judge and like that's it.
Yeah.
Like you don't know like the whole story of my life or anything that's going on in that given moment. Like, so yeah, like you said,
Mm,
it's kind of like specifically like some platforms are worse than others. And
really. Were
so,
people making negative comments about you?
well, I mean, people make negative comments about everybody. Like, it's just like terrible. You could be the best like human being athlete, and
Yeah.
people are always going to have something to say. You
Yeah.
know, people always have their opinions, and
Yeah.
like, it is what it is. You gotta either like if you know yourself and you know that you're unable to like not believe these words of people who don't even know you, then you kind of have to like remove yourself from the platform or whatever, which is kind of like what I had to do. I mean, if you're strong enough to be like, no, you literally don't know anything, then like, yeah, maybe you can like stay. But
Yeah.
personally, I wasn't able to. I was kind of just like, I have to remove myself from this situation because it's not good for me.
So were you taught these kinds of, I don't know, you just seem very wise beyond your years. And I know sport kind of forces you to grow up sometimes, but you just seem very good at making decisions that are right for you. Was this something that like your parents instilled in you?
I don't know.
Coaches?
I don't know. I just feel like that like level of like kind of like knowing who you are and like your
Mhm.
work and like stuff like that plays a like big role. Like if you just like don't see yourself as like who you are and how great you are, then it's really easy to like fall into like that trap of like, oh, these words weigh so heavy from people who don't know me. I mean, it took a lot of time. I wouldn't say like freshman or sophomore year, Miley would have thought this way.
Right.
I kind of had to develop and understand and grow to like really like have a lot of self-respect and self-love and stuff. So
So were
yeah.
you intentional with those kinds of things? Like reading books or kind of seeking this kind of self-worth?
More so just like with like my sports psych and my sports psych kind of transitioned out of sports psych more into just like life psych
Yeah.
because like at the beginning of my career, I struggled with gymnastics, and so I needed help with like sports psych. And then I was like, okay, my gymnastics is good, but I still feel like my life is crazy, or I just
Mhm.
need an outlet or something like that. And so he kind of transitioned into more of like a, how's life? What's going on? What are we working on in our gymnastics today?
Oh, you're a sports psychologist.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is the sports psychologist now?
We have like a few. I didn't work with like our gymnastics specific one. I worked with Jonathan Ravarino. Yeah.
So you're able to have these conversations with him about life and like nurturing who you are outside of sport.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really important. Trying to think if there's anything else. You alluded a little bit to like, I wish I would have enjoyed things a little bit more earlier on in your career. As you look back with this like hindsight's 2020, hindsight is 2020 view. Is there anything that you would have done differently? Like at any point in your career, is there a decision you would have made differently?
I don't think there's like a specific decision. I feel like if there's like one thing like if I could go back and like have more of is just like more self-love, more like care for like my body and what it was doing and like how like able I was to do my sport and healthy I was, like, just like appreciating that and kind of like instead of like beating myself up for like what I looked like or what I couldn't do. So I feel like just like looking back on that, and if I was able to have more of that, I feel like I would have just like been so much more like well off throughout my
Mhm.
college or maybe even like younger career too. You just like get into a comparison mode and it's really hard sometimes, but
Yes, I love that you say that. I feel the same way of just like being able to appreciate one, what you're doing while you're doing it, but like you said, like honoring your body and really caring for you as a human being. And this is why I'm trying to bring like the mindfulness in sport and these kind of introspective practices to coaches and parents so that they can instill it in kids at a younger age, because I think if we can learn these things when we are younger, our brains will kind of be on a better path moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I just like there was times in like my younger elite career where I'm just like literally a stick, but still somehow like I want to be like smaller or skinnier, but like I'm so strong and I'm doing such hard skills and like I just like couldn't see it because I was so young and maybe didn't have like 100% of the people around me, but it only takes like one person to be like, you aren't enough. So much the good can outweigh the bad, but the bad will just like overtake all of the good sometimes, and it's so hard.
Especially at such a young age. Like we're so vulnerable to these external influences. So did you
Yeah.
struggle with disordered eating?
Um, yes, like I haven't really like openly spoken about it much just because I feel like I don't know, it's like such a dark time of my life and it's like embarrassing, you know. People don't like to talk about it very much, but
Oh.
I had like a binging problem mainly like towards the end of like 2018, and that's kind of like why I came into college not like physically like well and not like mentally well, like a lot of that has to do with like your mental. Uh so just like binging eating and then like would try to purge but never really could
Hmm.
get there. You just kind of like restrict yourself throughout the day, and then at the end of the night, it's just like comforting to like I
Wow.
use food as comfort versus like food for fuel.
Right.
So that was like a really hard thing that I kind of had to overcome, and then not really being through it, but then coming to college and now I was in charge of like all of my own food and everything like that. And so it's just like everything on top of everything, it took me like a while to really understand that I can get comfort from other ways.
And it seemed like Carly, like she was a good positive influence in terms of you guys' bodies and your relationship to your bodies. Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like once I came to college, like I would never say like that there was a particular like coach or things like that, but things like stick with you and you just kind of are who you are, and then you have to develop and understand and grow a little bit more to understand that that's not who you are, you know?
Yeah. So how were you able to kind of move through it and do you feel like you have a healthier relationship with your body and food now?
Yeah, for sure. I do feel that way. I
Good.
mean, I met with like our nutritionist a lot and kind of sports psych as well in that sense, just like kind of understanding that like it's better to feel myself throughout the day versus like restrict and then you're so hungry and you
Yeah.
know like I said, like that love of your body and like being able to flip, like the fact that you're strong enough to do your gymnastics, but you're not even like feeling yourself properly and like just like kind of, you know, takes a level of like self-love and self-respect to have all of those things line up
Yeah,
nicely.
totally agree. Actually came, I mean, I struggled with disordered eating from, well, I was actually 12 years old and I read an article on Shannon Miller and how she like ate low fat. And for in my mind, it was like, oh, if she's low fat, then I'll be like fat free, And so that was the start of it. But then through college, yeah, I struggled too with some of the binge eating things and then beyond college. And it was Tara Brach. I don't know if you've read any of her work, but she does a lot on self-compassion and like radical self-acceptance. And it was that self-love that helped me move through as well. So it's just all too common. And it's, yeah, again, one of those things like if we can teach the self-love at an earlier age, then maybe athletes will be fueling their bodies healthier throughout the course of their career and minimizing injury and Yeah, just appreciating who you are and what you have while you have it.
Yeah, 1000%.
Well, I appreciate you sharing. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? I have one more question, but I wanted to see if you like had anything you wanted to share or anything you want to add.
I think so.
Okay, I know we've covered a lot. But so who were your idols growing up?
I like particularly really loved Alicia Sacramone. Just I don't know like what really like drew me to her, but I think one of like the biggest things was like hearing all of her like teammates from the Olympics and stuff just like talk about how like great of a leader and person she is, and then like she does her mount and she falls, but then like she gets up and like hits the rest of her team really great and is like still there for the rest of her team and like stuff like that. And I thought that is
Mhm.
kind of like what really just like drew me to her. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. So her as a person beyond just like what she did as a gymnast.
Yeah, and I've met her like a few times because my coaches are close with like Mihai and everything.
Oh,
So
right.
it's like an amazing person in general. So
Oh, that's cool. So I know that you are now an idol and an icon for a lot of younger athletes, and I'm sure many of the girls on the team. What kind of wisdom and advice would you instill in them to make their ride a little more enjoyable and smoother?
kind of like overarching our whole like conversation, I just feel like, you gotta love yourself first because like it's so amazing like what we do and who we are. And, just like be patient and kind to yourself and to others, and then just like trust the process and know that not everything is going to be like an upward trajectory all the time. So,
Perfectly said. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. This was great to kind of get to know you a little bit better. Um, and we'll probably use some of the conversation, one, just to spread the word of positivity through gymnastics. And I have a couple of courses. So I have this mindfulness and sport course, and then I have a Who Am I Now, the transition to life after sport course. So maybe some of our conversation around like transitioning out of gymnastics would be part of that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Take care, Miley.
You too. Bye
Okay.
bye.